Are you there? Can you hear me now? I'm so sorry. I clicked out of here because I was watching so can you hear me now? Let's try this again. So you guys missed the best part. It was me. Well, let's talk about, what just happened. And so I apologize for the technical issue that I just had. So anyways, this was just a hearing. It was the state's attempt to clean up the record. They were trying to either amend the record or have parts of it struck down, and there was, things that we had to, you know we want to keep everything the way it is, right? We didn't want anything to change because of the way it was worded. It was worded in a way that was friendly to us. Obviously, this is just part of this process. This thing's going to go to the appellate court, and then most likely the Oregon State Supreme Court. So this is the way this process is going to go. So this was just a formality. There was definitely some things the state of Oregon, the defendants, they did that, obviously the judge was not happy about. I was really pleased with the way Anthony held himself and the way he argued our perspective in this matter was great. So we had seven rulings or seven objections, and so with the seven objections, there was 7-0 in our favor. So a lot of this stuff was they were trying to better their position, because they didn't like the way the judge worded everything. And so in that, what they were trying to do was basically change and modify his words and to hopefully help them in the next case, right, when it goes to the appellate court. And so what happened is the judge was not happy. I could tell that there were certain things procedurally that they did that he was not happy with. And so that was a good thing for us because he was a little annoyed, and I could tell that Anthony was annoyed because you know this is this is a waste of resource. This is a waste of taxpayer funds. This is a waste of everybody's time because it is unconstitutional, and the way it's written, it's flawed from the very beginning. And this is not something that we should, we got to stay rallied until this thing goes away. And this was just another part of this process. And so some of the objections that they brought up today is the FBI, right? So the FBI, they were late to the party because the FBI, from the very beginning, they said that Measure 114 did not meet their requirements to perform these background checks because of the fact that there was a part of Measure 114 that said that there would be a third party permit issuing agent, right? And so the FBI did not want to give their database over to this third party. And you remember back when Measure 114 was being, presented and ran by the clergymen, as they started to get some grief, from certain parts of our society that said this was racist because it was making all of these people of color have to go to law enforcement, which they've spent the last couple years, keeping everybody apart because of, the racial component of that. And so what they've done is they've demonized that sector of society, and now the people of color are going to be related. They're it's going to be they're going to have to go see law enforcement. And so that's where the people that are behind Lift Every Voice, they pivoted and they said, okay, we're going to have a third party permitting agent. And so that was their pivot. And then the FBI said, no, we're not going to deal with a third party permitting agent, which could have been anybody that performs this kind of background check. And so at that point, I just learned today, I hadn't heard this, where the Oregon State Police made a ruling and changed the verbiage last December. Supposedly, I haven't seen it, but said that they would only have law enforcement be the permitting agents. Okay, so that's where now the FBI stepped in and got involved again and said they may, or I mean, they didn't give you a definite timeline. That was kind of the argument today, is how much time it was the FBI going to be involved with this permit to purchase process. So that's part of the problem here as well. And so, obviously that was denied. That's great for us because, they're not going to bring the part that the FBI now will, perform this process. They are not going to introduce this into the record. So this is a good thing for us, okay? And so it's a mute point at this point. It was them, they're desperate, and so the next thing is the 30-day, right? So obviously the way Measure 114 is written is it there's going to be no delay from a person would have 30 days to receive the permit to purchase in a perfect world. Okay, that means they would have to go through a background check. They would have to have a class. They would have to have in-person instruction on the proper loading and unloading of a firearm, also how to properly store the firearm. And then, this was in this 30-day window when it comes to applying for the permit to purchase. Okay. And one of our arguments was the fact that this is still a delay or a denial of our rights because there's no due process in this part, and so, I love the way it were, Tony brought it up today, is the fact that he, basically said there's going to be this, there would be, if so, a person goes in there, they go to apply, they're denied. Okay. So now the clock goes past the 30 days because now they have to go in front of a circuit court judge because they have to have their due process rights. And it is, why am I being denied? Why am I not have this ability to go purchase a firearm? And so I'm really thankful that the judge denied that part. So that keeps everything as it is, and so that's a really good thing for us. And so he felt that it was not compelling enough for them to kind of, change the record, which is good for us. Okay, so, I think that's a really, really important part, that the due process right is something that is doesn't get the coverage and the focus that it needs, right? And so, the next objection, we talked about, in the mass shootings, right? The public safety aspect of Measure 114. And so what the judge brought up, which I really liked, is the fact that, mass shootings in America are statistically uncommon. Okay. So there's been 179 official mass shootings since, I believe, I want to say 1979 or 1982 or something along those lines. I'll have to verify those numbers, but it's been a long time. Okay. So the ones that you see every town, Moms Demand Action, you see these numbers where they say, oh, we've had 400 mass shootings so far this year. That's not real. Okay. That's not a real number. That's something that they're using fear, emotion to drive this information. And so it's not I'll get to you in 1 second, Hero. We're gonna celebrate you, okay? So, that's kind of where we're at. Is the judge knows this situation. He understands the way the system's being played against Oregonians, his constituents, which is really, really great. And so he's very astute and he's very well versed in this situation because he knows it's a very complex issue. And so I respect that about him. And so yeah, Tony, yeah, we're at six. We're at six, I believe. Six, and we got 7-0 today when it comes to objections. So well done. Well done. And I see, like, I'm sitting here watching as I'm texting with your parents, because we see you have control of the situation. We know we believe in what you believe in what you're saying, and so it's really fun to watch. And so well done. And so all six, we got at least six, and so this one was another one, and this is just a formality. Okay. And so the next objection they brought up was Bill English, which is the one I cited. It's one of the most comprehensive studies. It was done back in 2021, where basically it says that we have 40 million semi-automatic rifles in this country, over half a billion 30-round magazines, or magazines that hold over 10 rounds in the country, right? So they're in common use. That's the thing that we want to talk about today is in common use. And so the fact that that was also, they try to say, well, this is not, this study has not been peer reviewed. So they love to throw that information around, peer reviewed study. The problem is their expert witness on the other side is they're all in this, they're in cahoots together. And so they all review each other's studies, even though they don't know what they're talking about. They're looking at it through a textbook as opposed to functionally handling the firearm. So they don't even know what they're talking about, but then they have their friends in society in their little bubble, review their situation, right? And some of them are anonymous, which, or other ones they will directly send the study to their friend will review it and then write it up, and now we're supposed to believe this as the gospel. And so, with Bill English, this study is a very comprehensive, probably one of the most comprehensive studies that's ever been done on American gun owners, and it has value. And what it did here, and what I really, as I'm watching the video today, in court, one thing that really upset me and offended me is the fact that they're going to use fear and emotion. They're going to interject, and I like the way the judge brought that in there. Tony brought it up as well. Is the fact that they use people that are actually getting paid from the anti-gun movement. There's a lady, I forget her name, Jenna, whatever. Horrifically, she lost two parents or one parent in Clackamas. Then her father committed suicide. It's a horrible story, and I feel for her. The problem is the state defendants, they presented this as expert testimony, right? Does not have any bearing on the case because this is not factual information. This is information that obviously it is biased because of her situation, which is horrific. And I'm not trying to discount that by any means. But the fact of the matter is, this study that has numbers and data should have more weight in this situation as opposed to somebody that is actually getting paid to testify. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of my biggest beef with this situation. And obviously, he brought up California and Arizona, and that was funny, is watching Brian Marshall talk about, he obviously doesn't understand how data works. Obviously, in California, you have such a greater population density than you do in Arizona. And so his argument didn't hold water because obviously there could be more magazines in there because there's more citizens in that state. He's not a mathematician. He doesn't understand data. He's going to use his position. And so that's not 100% accurate. And so, that's kind of where I'm at here. His stuff is definitely, I always called him the silver tongued devil, because that's really what he is. He is, you know, he's serving a role, right? His role is to play the bad cop, here, so, luckily, I like the way that Anthony brought up Duncan v. Bota. That's another thing, and then, Harry Wilson tried to counter that. It is what it is. It's still in the system. It's still live. It hasn't been, there's no permanent injunction that's been granted in that case. So, that objection number 4 was obviously denied, which was a good thing for us. And a lot of this stuff, and I like the way that Anthony brought up the fact that a lot of this stuff it's just nitpicking. That's why I say this is a total waste of, our time, the state's resources, and the fact that they want to continue this process and continue to throw, good money after bad is beyond me. And then we brought up, the centralization of how the media sensationalize, excuse me, I'm butchering that word, the media reports. And so the fact that, that was brought up in the judge's ruling of, back in November. And so the state of Oregon, they tried to, get that thrown out. They're tried everything they could to improve their position. Luckily for all of us, the judge was not having it. He knew their arguments were weak, and And so, that was a really good thing for all of us. And so, this was it's hard to follow because there's so many different legal terms, and so you got to read between the lines. A lot of stuff that I took notes on, and this was a great one. Tony did a really good job. And once again, he goes in there. It was probably him and Tyler Smith kind of worked on this together, and but ultimately he took the lead here, and he was going up against them, and so he held his own. He was confident, and so that's where I'm really appreciative for all that he did. So a lot of it was just all nitpicking. It was all we nitpicking, and I could tell with certain times because I watched the judge. That's what why I try to go to the court. Obviously, I didn't need to be there today, so I watched it online. But I watch, what's his body language, what's his reactions, what are his questions. These are all things that I use to kind of read between the lines, so I kind of know kind of where this situation going to go. And there are a lot of times with the objections that we had today, I was able to be in front of the objections because I knew that just the way he was looking, his body language, that he was going to deny, their objection, which, this is stuff that I've learned throughout this process that I like to share with you guys. And, so, so number five, that was talking about the media, objection number five. And that was, what I loved is how Anthony said is frankly ridiculous. I love that word. That was respectfully giving them the middle finger, and that's what he should have done. And so that was a really really good thing for us. And obviously objection five was denied. Objection six, they talked about her historical weapons, and what I love the fact that they are talking about how they couldn't tell how many Oregonians at the founding of Oregon had actual firearms. They admitted that we're all subsistence farmers back then. And the judge did a good job of kind of seeing through that garbage. And what I loved about in when he responded, Anthony brought up the fact that they could have brought up the transcripts like he did. And what he did in his response is he quoted their expert, that Brian DeLay, the guy that should not be an expert in this situation because he's book smart, not firearm smart. And he admitted under oath that this magazine was an integral part of the firearm, and that was required for that firearm to fire. And so, I loved in his briefing, it put all that in there. And then when it comes to, he circled back today and presented as like, hey, their own expert witness admitted that this was an integral part of the firearm. This is a waste. And so objection six, that was denied as well. And so, the last part, I think I have, I got on my phone. So, but ultimately, we had seven objections that they're trying to, present today, and all seven were unsuccessful. And so 7-0, we won. And obviously, they're still working on the judgment. The judgment. This is what concerns me. Okay, if we're talking, so we talk about enjoining. Okay, so enjoining is there's enjoining, and there's enforcement. Okay, the enforcement of Measure 114 has been permanently injuncted. I might have butchered that word, but anyway, there's a permanent injunction against Measure 114 on the enforcement end until it goes through the process, which goes to the appellate court. Then, if it goes past the appellate court, then it would go to the Oregon State Supreme Court. Okay, so the enforcement part is it's basically the way this looks, it's dead. Okay. We're talking about enjoining the actual implementation. So the argument now is what they're trying to do is they're trying to create budgets. They're trying to buy equipment. They're trying to hire staffing. They're trying to do everything in the background when we don't even know if this thing is constitutional. Harry Wilson has some very big tells today. He is banking on this thing going to the appellate court and this thing getting reintroduced as constitutional. That is his hill to die on. And a couple of his terms today, I totally feel that they're so arrogant that they feel that this thing is going to be overruled, and when it comes to the Supreme Court, the Oregon State Supreme Court. So they're banking on that. So they want to start spending dollars by, having resources dedicated to Measure 114 implementation. And so this is where the judge, I think the judge still needs to rule on this, where he's going to either, if he enjoins it, then this thing is dead, right? So this thing is not going to move any further until this thing is either ruled by the appellate court to be constitutional. If it's ruled as a constitutional at the appellate court, then we have to appeal that decision, and then it would go to the Oregon State Supreme Court. And that's how I understand it. Okay. So if I'm not correct here, then definitely I will get an appeal. I'll get all this information presented in a different way, but this is the way I understand it. And so obviously I'm not an attorney. I play one here on Facebook for you guys. But like a best case scenario for us as Oregon gun owners is this thing is enjoined, with the enforcement and the implementation are enjoined together as one. This thing stays dead until it gets to the next part of the process. And so that's the way I understand it. And I hope, I'll talk to Tony and I'll make sure this information is correct, but I believe that's the way this is supposed to go. And so that would be a good thing for us. If we can get this thing to, basically be enjoined, that means this thing would be, because what's going to happen though, is it's going to make it, let's play devil's advocate. Worst case scenario here is, if this thing goes to the next court, it is overruled and it is ruled constitutional. It's going to take so much time and resources for them to get this thing spun up that we're going to be in deep trouble, to be honest with you. So maybe I should reconsider my thoughts. I'll put some thoughts into it, but this is what the enjoining process looks like. And so, obviously we're hoping this thing dies a bad death, because that's what it is. It's garbage, but we have to understand, kind of what this all looks like. And so, there's so many moving parts, and we don't have the infrastructure in place. We don't have the manpower in place, and that's what's truly dangerous for all of us as Oregon gun owners is, if this thing is pulled out of the trash can by the appellate court or the Oregon State Supreme Court, everything's going to, gun sales are going to come to a complete halt. You know what I mean? And so that's where, we could have problems. And I'm not saying this is happening. I just want you guys to be prepared. Everything that we do here is about preparation. We got to look until we have a final ruling from the Oregon State Supreme Court. This thing's still in play. Okay. And obviously we have a lot of help. We have a permanent injunction in place, a permanent restraining order basically in place. And so that's preventing any kind of enforcement on Measure 114. And I feel from a taxpayer standpoint, it makes more sense for this thing to be enjoined, so we're not spending any more money on infrastructure work. Okay. The bad part about that is, if this thing goes into effect, the whole system's going to shut down, and literally, I don't know how they would get everything in place in a timely fashion where then we'd have to sue on the fact that all of our rights are being violated, because the fact that we can't in a reasonable time. And I love the way that Tony brought it up today is imminent harm, right? Imminent harm is a really, really important part, because that's already supported in Oregon revised statute. Is I have a right to self-defense because of imminent harm of threat of serious bodily injury. And that's part of Oregon revised statute already. And so the fact that I couldn't just go, put my ID on the counter and take possession, or after I go through the background check for a firearm, that puts me in a position where my rights are being violated. And so, that's going to be another court fight, if we look at this. And so, I'm going to start looking at the comments. So I appreciate it. I got everything I needed to say out. And so if there's anything you guys want clarification on, please let me know. But I'm going to kind of go through the comments and kind of talk about where we're at. Ultimately, all I want to do is celebrate Tony. He did another a wonderful job, basically, holding that line. And that's what we needed him to do. And so what I saw is arrogance. I saw people that feel that, it's less than 1% it's the will of the people. Okay. We could prove that, there could be fraud. I mean, there could have been fraud that gave them that little nudge they needed to get the less than 1% that approved Measure 114 at the ballot box, and so, that's the one thing here is there's an arrogance about them. They do, I feel that they really don't value the judge. I feel that they were trying to undercut the judge. They're trying. I mean, there was a comment I think that was made by Harry Wilson that they're just biding time so this goes to the next court, so this whole thing is overruled at the next court. So they're elite. Obviously they're leftist, and they don't value our rights the way we value our rights. They feel that the government's going to be in a better position to protect themselves than the individual, and that's a problem because of what Oregon state constitution says, that we have the right to keep and bear arms. So I'm going to start kind of going through these. What I'll do is highlight them. I apologize in the beginning that I didn't have my mic on. That's kind of embarrassing. That's a rookie move. um, so, thanks for tuning in, guys. And so this one, that was the thing, is it was fun to watch the judge and the way he kind of, you could tell that the wheels were turning in his mind, the way he definitely saw that, this was not, it was a waste of his time, a waste of resources, waste of the court's time, that took away from, he covers two counties. He covers, Harney County and another adjoining county. So he's a busy guy. And the fact that he had to waste his time on something that it wasn't presented in a proper way as well. So there's a lot of things that were against the state here. And so I'm glad that we got the rulings that we needed. And so that's really good. Yes. Highlight here. Yes. Then why did you file it? Why did you file it? That was a really important thing there, is because it just shows the fact that this is just a waste. And I feel in my heart that he's going to weigh, when it comes to the attorney fees, I think he's going to weigh in our favor here, because I feel that, they just are so arrogant about the situation. They feel that, they're going to be able, one thing we need to look out for now, okay, is now you're going to see the media. Now you're going to see the letters to the editor. Now they're going to use the court of public opinion to say bad things about this judge. And so, that's where we have to be mindful of this stuff. And we should be thinking about how we interject and put our own letters to the editor and submit them so we can have our side be heard, and just show the fact that, once again, the state of Oregon did not present a good case that's compelling to have any change to Measure 114. They failed once again, and all they did was waste money. And so, that's kind of where I'm at. We have to understand how they're going to use the media here. They did not get the results that they wanted, so they're going to fire up the media machine. I guarantee within an hour or two, I am going to have Google Alerts. Already got one this morning on Measure 114, but I guarantee they have, the attorneys are probably most likely working with the media up there. And so you see coming out of the Oregonian, the lady, she's done all of her reporting. It's garbage reporting. And you'll see her kind of fire up a story that says, oh, this radical judge that thinks that guns are not a problem, she'll have something along those lines. So just wait. It's all going to be coming. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. I appreciate you guys' support. I'm just trying to do my part, and obviously support you guys as Oregon gun owners, but I'm also trying to support our attorney, and I feel that he did a good job. And so, we want to celebrate him and make sure that he feels the love, and that's kind of where we're at. So that's, so my next comment here. Yeah. I mean, obviously the way this looks, so the governor isn't wasting the money directly. Okay, so this would be the Oregon DOJ. This would be the Oregon Attorney General, which is Ellen Rosenbaum at this point, because she's doubling down on this bad stuff. You know, she'll probably have some angry tweets on Twitter pretty soon. I'll keep a lookout. I'm going to put it all here so we can see what this lady says, so you guys can see all the information. And so, they are, they got another loss, and so they're not going to be happy. They're going to rally up their supporters. You're going to see something come out of Lift Every Voice Oregon, I guarantee it. And so that's the way this whole process, this is all smoke and mirrors. Okay, so we got to keep our heads down. We got to keep, stay focused, make sure that we're helping support these fights, because we also have a fight in federal court. It's going to the Ninth Circuit. We're going to have an appellate court fight, that we're going to have to appeal if we lose at the appellate court level. So there's going to be money that we're going to have to fundraise for these fights, and we have to. That's where we should be focused on. Obviously, we're going to keep everybody up to date when it comes to what the other side says, because I think it's really important to know, because these are our talking points that we use, that we talk to our neighbors or our circle of friends. This is how we re-educate the people that might not understand what's happening with Measure 114. And so, we have to be advocates for our own rights. Okay. So that's what's really important here. So, um, this is just a huge waste of money. And they've been stonewalling me on the FOIA request. So I don't know if I'm going to just give up on that. I mean, at this point, it doesn't matter. It could be 3 million, it could be 10 million. It doesn't matter. At the point, it's unconstitutional. And so how much time and resources do I dedicate to finding out the information that we already know they've thrown away all this money, and it's never done anything to save a single life? It's just, it's gross. So this one's kind of long. Yeah. Yeah, and so in the way I would look at it, right, is this is disrespectful to the judge. It's also disrespectful to the people of Harney County that elected this judge. They detest Eastern Oregon, because Eastern Oregon does not fall in line and believe the way that they're told to believe, like the Emerald, the Central Valley here. And so, that's where, you guys hold the line over there in Harney County, Eastern Oregon. You guys continue to elect good judges, and we're going to be there to help support you. It's just, this the whole thing. The whole thing is just totally imploding on itself, and so that's where we're just going to just got to stay up to date. So yeah. This only works if we all get involved, right? So that one, like, and I'm salivating. So this is January 2nd, 2024. Okay, we have less than 11 months, or just over 11 months till the election. Okay, I'm gonna work so hard in this election to make sure that we win. Okay, I need you to join me in this, and we all have to come together as Oregon gun owners, and we have to get out the vote. Okay, and we have to get good candidates that we can elect. Okay, so, like, this is going to be really the most important election of our time. We have to take back the reins of what's happening in Washington, also what's happening here in Oregon. This is really, like, I'm going to put a lot of my effort into the election. So, we got to wake up. We got to understand, and we're all in this together. And yeah, so that one was the bad one right there. So that was, it's probably going to be appealed. There's going to be appeals that are going to be filed there. But still, that doesn't hurt or help our case here in Oregon, because the permit to purchase is completely separate. Okay. So, that's where we have to understand. Absolutely. Yeah, Chris. No, 100%. You guys are good folk. You guys are good, hardworking folk. And we're going to, we need to amplify and boost your signal. And so we do that by making sure that we do our part and we show up and vote. That's how we support our people in Eastern Oregon. Is they might not have the numbers, but if we have more numbers in the valley or other parts in the urban environments, if we can get people to show up and vote, that's how we're going to help, destroy what's happening around the state, So, so yes, this is a really good thing. As soon as I'm working on all of that. Okay, so we're putting everything together. Once there's an official, I think they're going to use GiveSendGo. They're not going to use GoFundMe. So they're working on all of that. As soon as I have that information, I'll let everybody know, and we'll start filling those coffers. Okay, so as soon as I know more, we just don't have everything solidified. That's why there hasn't been a official call to action. So just stand by. I just want it on people's radar. Budgets are tight. I understand that. And so, we can set a little bit aside. Also gun stores, right? We people with followings here in the state of Oregon, okay? We have to use these followings. We have to use our networks and our social media to get this stuff to the forefront. Okay. I was really disappointed the fact that there's big people that have followings in the state of Oregon, yet they're media silent on this stuff. Okay. So if you have people in your circles that you can lean on and say, hey, we need your help. We need to boost this signal here. It's really important that I know we all have contractual obligation when it comes to the influencers and sponsorships and stuff like that. So there's a certain amount of content that we have to put out that's related to our sponsors, but we also have to use our platforms a little bit more effectively when it comes to getting this message out, right? And so that's one of the biggest gambles that I've taken with my platform, is because I'm exposing myself to get the information out there, right? And so I just need others to say, hey, let's work together. Let's have a unified message. Let's get this content out where we can get more people involved. Okay. So, this is not a left versus right issue. This is all Oregonian issue. And so that's where we have to understand, what's truly at stake here. And that's how we have to improve upon what happened last year. So yeah, I saw that. That is wild. There's 10 deaths where somebody took it upon themselves. It's still being investigating. That's wild. So, that's something that, we should be mindful of, is, what's happening around the scenes in other parts of society. Obviously, this is a gun group. I focus primarily on gun rights and stuff like that, but there's other stuff that we should also be paying attention to. So that's a great comment. So, thanks, Tamara. So other than that, I'm gonna get off here. I got to get back to work. I got other stuff to do, and so I'm already getting alerts from Oregon Firearms Federation. So that's good. So the word's getting out. Okay. So just understand that the media is going to try to use this to their advantage. And so we just have to push back and say, no, let the process work the way it's designed to work. Don't let outside influences, don't let fear and emotion influence this cycle. This is law. This is facial challenge. This is black or white. There's no gray. There's no green. There's no, keep it about the issue. That's where we have to push back on these narratives. And so that's just something to be aware of, so other than that, I mean, unless anybody has anything else, I'm going to get off here. Congratulations to Tony. Thank you for doing what you did. That was great. I really appreciate the work that he did. Also, Tyler Smith, his firm has been doing great work on our behalf in Harney County. And so when it's time, we're going to have obviously a call to action to make sure we fund these lawsuits. But, it was a good day. So just, take a deep breath, enjoy your families, enjoy your work day, and just know the work's not over. We're going to have to get back to, we have less than a month until the Oregon legislature comes back into session. And so that's where we have to be aware, so, that's right there. So happy New Year. I'm glad we got the ruling that we needed, starting off 2024 with a victory again. Oh God, they've got to be so frustrated. I can see them. I could see them as when one of them scored points, like Jindal, he kind of like, He'd be all happy. He's like, "Yeah, we scored a point, but you're still down 0-7." You know what I mean? So it's like your point on video doesn't do anything for your case, and it's just funny. This desperation, this thing was total desperation, and so it was not about saving lives. It's about ego. It's about the attorney general not doubling down basically and making sure that she continues to push this stuff. So yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of tears that are going to be shed out of this. Okay, because once again Tony did it. So I'm out of here. You guys have a great day. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a good day.